Everyone. This is 1,280. 1,280 and the district attorney of El Paso seems a little offended by us. I think so. That's what Intel is telling us. He's feeling a little, you know, offended because we put up an open record, an open letter. Um, that's I'm going to address it because I think it's very important for all El Pasoans and the surrounding area of El Paso that depend on the district attorney to identify crimes um, in order to document them, to prosecute the criminals, to support whistleblowers, um, that we pay millions of dollars, and they get the nice buildings. We give them everything. We give them the beautiful buildings, the whatever air conditioning and heat that they need, special parking lots, special travel, special prices on gasoline, whatever they need, we give them millions of dollars, millions, in order that they will identify crime and criminals, document it, keep those records, make those records available to us when they prosecute those crimes and criminals, right? And support our whistleblower, our families. We get together, we form a government, we make all this possible, we pay the taxes. Some of us pay the taxes, some of us like to avoid paying taxes. And our open records are showing us who likes to avoid paying taxes. And it's just absolutely insulting and also offensive to us when the district attorney is not doing their job, when they are betraying us, not because we give them crumbs, not because we give them a hut to huddle in, not because we say, oh, you've got to use pencil and paper, you can't have new computers, and we don't want to pay your wages, and, no, we give them everything. They've got the shiny shoes. And we want them to have all of that. And we want them to have a good life. But they have a duty. They have a duty. Let me see if I'm on. Looks like I'm on. And we want them. And they play games with us. I can't even tell you the games that they play. And they obstruct justice. They have tried to sabotage the best that they could absolutely do Richard's case. Sabotage it. They've absolutely, and this is not my saying, this is Loretta Lynn Hewitt saying, they leave murder cases in pieces. In pieces. We give them millions of dollars and they leave the murder cases in pieces. They sabotage. This is the district attorney's office, and they sabotage murder cases. We know that they have sabotaged the August 3rd, 2019 Walmart mass shooting. Okay, okay, who is offended? I think all of the victims' families should be the ones offended. When we give millions of dollars, and the nicest buildings and the air condition and the parking lots and the shiny shoes and anything that they want, their big staffs. We don't have a big staff. And yet they leave the murder cases in shambles, in pieces, for political games, for political, when I say political, that's financial gain. All the political party games is for power in order to manipulate the system in order to get financial gain. That's what that is, in my opinion. And they have for 4 years have milked the with this gravy train and label it, oh, this Patrick Crucius case, the August 3rd Walmart mass shooting case. And really, what are they doing? They're sabotaging murder cases. That's what they're doing, in my opinion. And we now, with the open records that have poured into our lap now and going through them, we have confirmation that the district attorney, Yvonne Rosales, was absolutely looking into our son's case. Absolutely had that case open. And when Bill Hicks came in, which I'm wondering, is it, because they're connected, Richard's case is connected with the Walmart mass shooting case, right? So when he came in, the door was shut on our son's case. And nobody that is a victim in the Walmart mass shooting has to question any longer why that whole case, those murders, have been left in pieces. And I think Loretta Hewitt could tell us even more. But she told us enough, and we're very, very grateful. And when you look at the timeline of what happened with Richard, because now with the open records, we have confirmation that Richard was blowing the whistle in 2019. He was blowing the whistle in 2019, and where was the DA office then? Jaime Esparza. DA Jaime Esparza, who, decided to come out of retirement to be the AG of that area. So, pardon me if I don't care that you're offended. Because, my son is a human being. He was relying on the law. He was all about the law. That's why he wanted to be a CID agent. And he wanted to be a CID special agent. Not a dirty agent like Marlon Soto, who is absolutely, we got confirmation that, that's a dirty agent. And the 700 and something pages that's a lot of his cooperation in there with dirty help. But there's some little nuggets in there that need to be gleaned because they're messy. They give you some truth in their messiness. And you would think that District Attorney Bill Hicks would contact us to speak to us about our son's case. That he would care about El Pasoans. And because of their negligence, we have now a soldier that in March went over to Juarez and killed his girlfriend. Where has he been? In prison? All this time? And now he's going to be extradited to the United States. They want it before the trial. Why? Because they don't want people to know that a Fort Bliss soldier went across the border and killed his girlfriend? There, we just heard that today, and it's so sad. But there's so much criminal negligence, and we know we have criminal negligence with FBI supervisory agent Nieto, who has conflicts of interest, who has been there for a long time, even lived on Fort Bliss, and over 20 years in the FBI there. How does that happen? Who is in that HRC that assigned this to happen and that allow this kind of collusion, corruption to develop, to endanger the people there in El Paso and our volunteer sons and daughters on Fort Bliss and in that surrounding area and into Mexico? It is, I really, from the very beginning, we have begged. No less than 10 times we have contacted the lawyers of Bob Moore. I mean, we have worked behind the scenes, letter after letter. I mean, Rob's name is everywhere on these we are padding all kinds of files with our letters, our requests, begging for justice. And DA Bill Hicks still hasn't spoke with us. $1,280 days. And we have a dirty agent supervisor in the FBI who has a conflict of interest with Nadal Baim, the FBI agent that exposed that the FBI had found Richard's remains in Mexico, making this a international case, a binational crime scene. And absolutely conflicts of interest with dirty agent Soto and Leilani Hart, because Leilani Hart needed to be arrested. And we know there's a sex cult issue going on, controlling those in positions with sexual favors. That's why we move people around, but it doesn't seem to have been the case in El Paso and Fort Bliss. They had their sweet little gravy train going there, and they were allowed to have it. And I said this, I've been saying it for a long time about the 44 four-star generals and admirals that have betrayed us, that they have allowed the breaches of security of Fort Bliss. They absolutely could close down Fort Bliss if they wanted to, as far as narcotics getting on there, guns getting on there, guns getting off because of the smuggling, our equipment, our weapons, our ammunition being smuggled out, being put in the tactical move storage units, taken over to Juarez to be sold. And when you don't pay any inventory expenses, no brick and mortar expenses, no travel expenses, and you make just total profit off of it, and you can stick it in your pocket, then you can go around with your Mercedes, right? Your pearl colored Mercedes, and you can buy your properties and everything. And the rest, they could just be offended. They could just be offended, or they could, take some fentanyl and die of fentanyl. And if they're not willing to play the Vanity Fair, they could become a whistleblower and become murdered and dismembered. So, the DA, I'm sorry, I'm offended by his criminal negligence, because he absolutely should have contacted us. He absolutely should have followed the rule of law when it comes to his oath of office. That's not my fault. Because I read the newspaper and read what Reyes Mata puts in El Paso Inc. And I think, wow, that's very worrying. That's concerning. Because no wonder we're working with a DA that has a real problem. And are they blackmailing him because of that problem? If you're not legit, if you did not sign in your anti-bribery statement until according to these open records, it's the 26th of January, right? And but it's been backdated to the 11th of January, and you were already, since the 21st of December, 22, doing your DA stuff, and you're not allowed to, by the Texas Constitution, do those kinds of activities until you sign the anti-bribery statement. It's called the Statement of Officer. But he didn't do it right. And so what that can do is then people can hold that against him. They can bribe him. They can misuse the district attorney's position because now they have something against him. And I'm going to tell you, they have even more against him because our open records, and we're trying to wrap our head around it. But something is going on around Bill Hicks that's not good. There's legal problems. There's financial problems. There's tax evasion issues there. And, so we're trying to get through this open records and see what kind of DA has absolutely not responded to us, not cared about Richard. And look at Richard's face. Why wouldn't you care about Richard? Don't tell me any kind of smear campaign. We're talking about a 19, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, a volunteer soldier on Fort Bliss that has derelict generals, or they're compromised, totally compromised generals that have betrayed us, that allow the narcotics trafficking to be on the military installation. There's a breach on Fort Bliss, and they allow it. And they allow the human trafficking. They allow the 14-year-old girl who is connected to the director of emergency services because she's the stepdaughter of one of the entry guards, right? From Department of Emergency Services, being pimped out. 14-year-old girl, hey, go live on the barracks and be pimped out. Who's pocketing the money? That is being allowed on a military installation. And the weapon smuggling is being allowed also. And do not tell me, I've been around the military for a long time, that if we had a problem like that, and I've been shouting about it for years now, that our generals that we give everything to, we give everything to our generals, more so than even the district attorneys, right? We give them everything. They have the retirement and the houses and the powers. They have the weapons. They have it. And they are allowing, do not tell me that they can't close down that and secure a military installation. They've chosen to leave it insecure and put all of our volunteer sons and daughters in danger, where it's so dangerous. The barracks are flush with weapons. We know that for years. We have proof and proof and proof that the barracks were flush with weapons. We have the admission. We learned that from Brigadier General Stewart. And then Dirty Agent Soto goes, oh, it wasn't just Richard's barracks. It was all the barracks on Fort Bliss that were, full of weapons, illegal weapons, unregistered weapons. And then we had the health and welfare report that came to us with, just recently, because they didn't do a darn thing about it. Putting our sons and daughters in danger, putting them in that kind of environment where they have to participate or get violent themselves or become whistleblowers and then get retaliated against and end up being murdered or found dead in the barracks like Glendon Oakley Jr. And we give these leaders everything. I mean, I want my money back. I want my money back. And they're dealing in now financial fraud. And they're offended that we're calling them out. And we're $34 trillion in debt, and they're offended that we're calling them out. Because I want my son. I want to know what happened to my son. And they're offended that I want to know what happened to my son. And that I'm offended that Bob Moore is too concerned about playing politics with his 501c3 Little El Paso Matters instead of investigating and covering, little bit of investigation would have told him that Leilani Hart is a convicted criminal. But you know what? I think he has a conflict of interest with her. Because he knew that, in my opinion, that she was an unreliable source. I mean, she was bragging all over that she was controlling the CID on Fort Bliss. But he might not have known, maybe he did, that her son was Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, who she said was engaged in incest and raping her friend's active duty soldier's child and her 7-year-old in her master bedroom. And Nieto doesn't arrest her for false statements. See, nothing makes sense here. And then when you call them out, they get offended. And then you get bullied and retaliated against, and they threaten you, and they don't answer you, and they're like, what? They have a right to our money. They have a right to, we just supposed to trust their criminal activity. We're supposed to trust them while they're doing criminal activities and pulling off this fraud. They're not the DA. That's a fraud. When you are actively sabotaging murder cases, that is not the definition of a DA. That's not the oath. That's not the anti-bribery statement. So who's gonna do the oversight? What kind of power is behind them that everybody's afraid of? It's like everyone's afraid. We might have to actually do our job. We might have to actually, at this point, it's like, why do we even have a DA? Why do we even have generals? Why do we even have FBI? Why do we even have CID? Why do we have them? Just so, we can be abused by them because they weaponize themselves, the Department of Justice, the FBI, they weaponize themselves against the very people that, are stuck with the debt to pay for all of their bills. And then if you ask, well, more please, like in, what is that story by Dickens, Oliver Twist? I'd like more, please. I'd like to know where my son is. I'd like for you to do your job. More, please. I don't want you to just, pull off this financial fraud by saying you're something that you're not and getting all the benefits without having any kind of the responsibility that comes with those benefits. Not doing anything. And then daring to get offended instead of apologize, instead of, confession is a cure of souls. It's the cure of souls. Confession is a sacrament. It's a sacrament. And they're quite the opposite. They're just bold. Oh, your son got murdered and dismembered because he was a whistleblower. He shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done that. He should have allowed the Vanity Fair to go on, the abuse to go on, the murders to go on, the sabotage of the murders to go on, to let us have our little financial fraud and say that we're really a general or an FBI agent or a DA, but we're not. We're not, because we're a criminal syndicate. That's what we are. That's what at least they should be honest about who they are. But they don't. They steal identities. They steal identities and call themselves, the special agent or the district attorney or the assistant district attorney or you know, um, the public servant. And they're not. They're a criminal syndicate. So it is it's serious business because so many people are afraid. And I guess when what we know, what happened to Richard, your fear goes away because you're like, oh my gosh, they, where is it going to stop? If we with what we know, do nothing, say nothing, do not work to get justice for our son. How many people are they going to do this to? And how bad is it going to get? How bad is it going to get? And it's getting bad. It's getting very bad. So, but I'm hopeful. And I don't know if it's going to be in my lifetime, but I'm hopeful that we can absolutely we absolutely do have the power to change things and to stop the corruption and the criminal activity. And we have something called the Constitution. We have something called the law, and it needs to be followed. So it's going to be interesting how this all finally, um, finally comes together to get justice for Richard. And we're really looking to make the media understand that El Paso Matters has engaged. They're being investigated right now, and it's fraud because it was Bob Moore that went to the IRS that said, "Look, I'm going to be neutral." Right? He's the one that betrayed his own stand. He's the one that started being political, taking part in the removal of Yvonne Rosales. He's the one that started doing that, and many cases, many things. And so, if he's going to be offended, he needs to look in the mirror and be offended. He needs to look in the mirror and be offended because he himself ruined his own IRS 501c3 tax exempt status by engaging in political play. Fraud. And absolutely there is weird a weird relationship between Bob Moore and Bill Hicks and others. And they're playing politics. And Loretta Lynn Hewitt is the one that pointed that out. And I'm very grateful to her for that. And she's when you look her up, she's a very respected individual. She's definitely, you can vet. It's not like just using Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and Leilani Hart, who are criminals and unreliable and have connections with the Walmart mass shooting that is not healthy, which is Richard's case. That's not healthy. So you can vet them. And we have documentation because we make our officials keep those documents so that we can ask for open records and we can look at them. And so that's very, very important. So I'm, I don't know how to respond to agencies that we need to work properly to get to the bottom of Richard, but that are so broken that you have to call them out. And I think that the answer, the solution to this is that all the people there, if you're out there, if you're listening, if you're seeing the open records, the open letter, and if you know about Richard's case, and or you care about Richard's case, or you care about your community, and you see the crime activity, and you're concerned about where your taxpayers' money is going to is not really giving you a bang for your buck. Um, I would say that please share Richard's story, because we do have traction that is making a real difference. And so it will make a real difference in El Paso, and also in our family, that we would get answers about Richard. So thank you so much, everyone. God bless you, and we'll be back tomorrow, God willing.